And finally, Germany-based DHL, which is the world's largest logistics company, has become the first firm to use a Boston Dynamics robot, which is called Stretch, to unload trucks. Now, this comes just 1 year after the shipping giant invested $15 million into robotics solutions. Boston Dynamics says that the Stretch robots can perform multiple tasks autonomously, as well as identify items in a warehouse without pre-programming. Meanwhile, Google's invested nearly $400 million in chatbot startup ChatGPT. The software functions as a chatbot for internet searchers and can even write and debug custom computer code. Well, is the rise of the robots and AI a good or bad thing? To settle the debate once and for all here on RT, we're joined live now by Luca Longo, artificial intelligence researcher, and Dr. Suvrokamal Dutta, foreign policy expert. Gentlemen, thanks very much for joining me today. First of all, I'd like to ask you both briefly to lay out your positions on the use of robots and AI in the workplace and other areas. Starting with you, please, Luca, if you don't mind.
Yes, thanks for having me here. I think in general, artificial intelligence is a good thing for humans in the workplace or in education, like where I work. In terms of robotics, these things are happening more in manufacturing companies chain, as you described the DHL. And I don't see many problems in using robotic automation in manufacturing chains. We just need to pay attention about the ethics surrounding these new technologies.
That's great. Nice and succinct. Thank you very much. Dr. Suvrokamal, what's your position on this?
Science and artificial intelligence is something which is controlled and it is programmed as such, And we have seen many times in past that excessive use of artificial intelligence by human, at times it leads to dangerous situation. We are aware of many instances where in Japan, robots have killed human beings as such, when the programming had gone wrong as such, Artificial intelligence and science used in an optimum way and in a minimum way is beneficial for mankind, but it cannot replace mankind as such, And especially for countries like India, which is labor-intensive oriented economy, artificial intelligence and robotic science cannot replace the technical labor force of our country as such, and it would be a dangerous trend if we shift towards artificial intelligence in a complete sense.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, I saw some nods of agreement there by Luca. I don't know what sort of debate this will be if you're both going to agree, but I'm just going to start off with the age-old question, Luca, and I'm sure you've answered this 100 times. Does it not mean that people are going to lose their jobs?
Well, that's, as you said, a recurrent questions. No, the answer is no, for a simple reason, because, of course, robotic automation robots will replace some of the human in the most hazardous tasks. But those robots needs to be monitored. So we are introducing new types of job for humans, for example, monitoring these robots. So paradoxically, we are creating new opportunities for employers and for employees.
Now, Suvrokamal, I get the feeling that you agree with this, given your first answer, but it is a good thing that these robots are replacing repetitive, menial, and back-breaking jobs, such as the ones possibly in DHL, unloading boxes from trucks. People suffer many health problems when involved in such laborious tasks. And people might get their parcels more quickly if it's more efficient. I get the sense that you think this is a good thing.
Absolutely.
As I said earlier also...
yes. To Suvrokamal, please.
Okay. As I said earlier also that if it is used in a minimum way and in an optimum way, then it can be beneficial for mankind, but it cannot be a replacement for human technology or, for that matter, for human beings as such. In my country, I am aware of that, yes, we do use the technique of artificial intelligence in medical sciences, as well as in heavy engineering, as well as in software and in space engineering as such. But then these are used only for research and development as such, and not as a replacement for human beings as such. Our scientists and our doctors are well known across the globe. Like our scientists are doing so well in NASA, as well as in IMF, as well as in World Bank and other international institutions, our research scholars as such. And people in Western countries are hiring Indian brains for technical research and for higher research as such, and same is the case here in India. Also, as I had mentioned earlier also, that ours is a labor-intensive economy. We have a budding young population. This young population of our country is doing very well. Yes, we do use robotic science and artificial intelligence, but then the button or the key of that robotic science and that artificial intelligence lies in the hands of the human finger as such. So ultimately, it is the human being which controls as such, And there are many areas, there are many industries where artificial intelligence and robotic science cannot be a replacement as such. So, I just give me 5 seconds, I'll finish that. So, for example, in relation to our MSME industry or cottage industry, or the industry which is heavily dependent on agriculture and on small scale and medium and cottage products, there is no use of artificial intelligence and robotic science, because these are all labor intensive industries. So for economies which are labor oriented, especially economies of India and Southeast Asia and China, I think artificial intelligence and robotic science cannot be a replacement for mankind.
Well, talking about replacements for mankind, you bring me on very nicely to my next question for Luca. And you don't need me to tell you this, obviously, as one of the experts in this field, but there have been leaps and bounds in AI, including ChatGPT, which we mentioned earlier, which I believe passed a legal exam. Is there not a chance that we can go a little bit too far with this, maybe with lawyers getting replaced, or even TV presenters with scripts written by AI and deepfake presenters sitting behind in the studio? Where do you draw the line?
Well, you see, for example, there are students who use ChatGPT for their assignment as well.
I was going to mention that, yeah.
Okay, so the problem for me is not the use of ChatGPT to get some pre-formatted text, because anyway, as humans, we go to Wikipedia, we go to other encyclopedia online, we take information online. So ChatGPT is just a means to have pre-craft knowledge. The problem is how we aggregate this knowledge, how we use this knowledge in an ethical way. So I think the problem should be, for example, on the professor side, that they should check the semantics behind these pieces of text and not just the actual sentences.
So the professor that develops the AI, is that correct, Luke? Or the professor checking the student's exam?
We see, even a professor who take an essay from a student needs to read this essay, but as you mentioned, there is not much difference between what ChatGPT produces and what a human produces. But the professor has some expertise that the AI, the ChatGPT, does not have, which is exactly the semantic I was talking about. For example, I teach research design, and I encourage students to use ChatGPT because it's not the problem of getting the information from different sources. ChatGPT is just one source of this. Is how we aggregate this information is in a nice story that holds in semantics.
Now, Suvrokamal, is it not just a case throughout humanity, whatever happens, that you can't stop progress, whatever the human cost may be, and that sooner or later we are going to have to embrace AI, well, robots, obviously manual labor positions and maybe more, but AI more widely, given the efficiency and the reduction in labor costs, etc., that it produces? Is this not inevitable, whatever happens?
No, I don't think so. It's inevitable as such, because the demarcation line is very, very clear. As I have rightly said, that artificial intelligence and robotic science cannot be a replacement for human science as such. It might be 30% of day-to-day work can be controlled or can be programmed through artificial intelligence and through robotic science, but not 100%. After all, 70% of that has to be done by human beings. And especially for areas which are related to social sciences and areas which are related to humanities and areas where there is a lot of analysis needs to be done, a lot of analytical science is required. There, a robotic science or a robot cannot be the replacement. Robotic science and artificial intelligence can only perform which are in areas which are mathematical as such, like you cannot ask a robot to give a valuation of things in social science or in society or in social situations where 2 plus 2 can be 5 also, 2 plus 2 can be 3 also. It's not necessarily that in human sciences and in human behavior or in society it has to be a exact 4 as such. So in those kind of a scenario, a robot or artificial intelligence programmed things becomes absolutely immaterial as such. Then again, in situations, supposing if there is a factory dispute, if there is a labor unrest, there you need a bureaucrat, there you need a technocrat who can handle the situation. You need a person from business management or from social science to handle that kind of a situation. A robot, or for that matter, a programmed thing of an artificial intelligence cannot control a labor unrest or cannot control a band or a hartal somewhere. After all, in those kind of things, human resources are required. So therefore, whether it's in Western countries or whether it's in developing countries or in labor-intensive countries also, artificial intelligence and robotic science cannot do the replacement in 100% way. Might be in Western countries, the replacement could be higher. It could be somewhere around, say, 60% human beings and 40% robotic science and artificial intelligence. But for labor-intensive countries like India and Southeast Asia, there the ratio would be 80% human contribution and 20% robotic.
Okay, you've made that point. Yeah, you've made that point clear. Now, you did mention technocrats and bureaucrats before in your answer. I'm going back to you now, Luca. Concerning, again, AI ChatGPT, there have been a number of politicians, including the Israeli president, that has written at least part of his speech with AI. And I believe an American representative did something very similar, although his name does escape me now. Should we be concerned about the impact on democracy if people are, just dashing out speeches with Chat AI and running them off?
The problem, I think, is not in the production of speeches and texts. The problem is how we use these texts for in the public, for persuasion, for guaranteeing democracy. So it's again, a line is about how we use the text, the speeches, the information we produce alone or with the AI alone, and analyzing the impact of these, the consequences of this information to the public, as you say, to the social environments we live in.
And how do you suggest we control where such text and information is used? It might be quite tricky.
It is tricky. There are a lot of there is an emerging paradigm in AI, which is, for example, propaganda detection, and is a very technical challenge because you really need to go into the text deeply and analyze the semantics, analyze the order of the words, the order of the sentences, and it's not an easy problem. That's why AI cannot be. Humans cannot be replaced by AI, because if there is something that AI is missing, is exactly the reasoning, the human reasoning we possess that AI does not have.
Dr. Suvrokamal Dutta, any final thoughts you'd like to share before we bring this debate to a close?
Well, I think the other expert has almost agreed to what I have said. And you did ask about politicians using programmed speeches. Now, I can cite an innumerable number of examples where you have, you have programmed your speech and you have decided that whatever has been dictated in that programmed speech of yours, you are going to read that out in front of the public, in front of the audience where you have gone for addressing a meeting. But then the audience wants in to hear something else from you and not exactly the speech which you have programmed, Now, if in that kind of a scenario, a robot or a programmed speech of artificial intelligence cannot be a replacement. for something which the audience wants to hear, which is very different from the programmed speech. Now, it is there your intellect counts. It is there where your instant connect with the people connects, and where your political thinking helps you out. Now, in those kind of a scenario where the audience wants to hear in something from you, from what you wanted to say originally, out there a robot or a programming through artificial intelligence cannot be a replacement. You have to use your human wit for that.
Well, certainly AI hasn't reached those nuances just yet. But I do think that we have settled the debate once and for all. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time and your input today. Luca Longo, artificial intelligence researcher, and Dr. Suvrokamal Dutta, foreign policy expert. Pleasure to get your thoughts today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.